Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I'm Anka. I'm your host for the day. And while everyone joins, I wanted to see how things are going. Just do some small chit chat around here. How is everyone doing? Let me know in the chat, where are you joining in from? If you are expecting any sort of specific feature to be included in today's demo, or anything of the sorts. In the meantime, by the way, my colleague Andrea is going to be, as usual, with me in the chat. So you'll find her in the chats, making sure that everything runs smoothly, which is awesome. San Francisco, Texas, that's amazing. Awesome. I'm in Romania right now, so. Scotland. Hi, hi, hi. Awesome. Perfect. I'm so happy to have you all here. Today, we're going to go through SocialBee in a bit of a different way than we normally do. So let me just share this properly. There we go. Yes. Okay. So normally what we do is we give you a rundown of all the features that you have at your disposal and then let you go with that. But today we wanted to take a little more of a different approach and show you a little bit on how we are using SocialBee to amp up our marketing strategy. There we go. I got it in the end. So while everyone is still joining, let's go through a few things. First of all, let me properly introduce myself. I'm Anka. I'm a social media strategist here at SocialBee. I've been doing social media for about 10 years now, out of which 7 have been here at SocialBee. So I have really grown with the platform. I've been helping businesses, I've been helping entrepreneurs to make the most out of their social media with as little effort as possible. And whenever I'm not online on SocialBee, I'm online with a local influencer community here in Romania, just creating events and networking for them. So even when I'm offline, I'm still on social media. Regarding today's webinar, one thing I wanted to make sure is that we have a few ground rules in place, if you will. So what we're going to do is make sure we go through them. First of all, just to let you know, this webinar is recorded just like any other webinar that we host. So you'll receive a recording of the webinar within 24 hours of it ending. So probably by tomorrow, you'll have it in your inbox via email. You can share it with whoever you need to. You can rewatch it as many times as you need to. And if you can't find that email, check the spam folder and also check our YouTube channel, because you will be able to see it there as well. As with any webinar that we have, we're also going to have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions for us, make sure that you add them into the Q&A box below. I'm saying add them into the Q&A because I might miss them on the chat. So I'm not very much paying attention to the chat all the time, which means I might miss your question. But if it's in the Q&A box, I will not miss it for sure. And then for any resources that we might be sharing in any of our webinars, you will find them in the follow-up email along with the recording. So you don't have to worry about screenshotting. You don't have to worry about anything, but being present, asking questions, taking notes. That's about it. So, by the way, if you're not using SocialBee yet, I wanted to quickly share our offer with you. If you want to get started, you can get a 20% deal on the first year by using the code webinar20. So we're talking today about how SocialBee's marketing team uses SocialBee in their strategy. And in order to do that, we're going to go through the following items. So we're going to go through what actually is a solid social media strategy, or what our team thinks it is at least, and how we can translate that into some SocialBee features. We're going to go through the workflow that we use in SocialBee and then share some tips and tricks on how you can bulletproof your strategy by using SocialBee, finally ending with the Q&A session. So, what is a solid strategy? How do we define a solid social media or content marketing strategy? Well, you'll see that we have a few items on our list here: posting consistently, posting strategically as well, delivering a balanced content mix, making sure that you have a goal-oriented strategy, making sure that you attract your target audience and that you interact with that audience, being the main points of a solid strategy. And now, how can you translate that into SocialBee? Well, to post consistently and strategically, you can plan and schedule your content in advance, which is one of the main features of SocialBee, probably the one that attracted you into SocialBee, or into discovering SocialBee in the first place. Then when it comes to delivering a balanced content mix, this is one of our strong points, where you can use content categories to do that, because content categories can help you organize your content. It can help you make sure that you have a balanced content mix and schedule that content mix accordingly. That way you make sure it's balanced. Have a goal-oriented strategy. In order to do that, you need to set some SMART goals. So these goals are achievable, they're measurable, they're realistic, all of that. And how you can do that is by tracking your analytics. And in SocialBee, you'll have up to 2 years worth of data when it comes to the analytics that you have available. So that way you can make sure you benchmark your analytics, you can set those realistic goals through these analytics, and then measure their performance even further. In order to attract your target audience, you're going to need some details first on who that target audience is. But once you have that, you can compare it to the data that you have in your analytics to see if your desired audience is your actual audience. And finally, you can interact with the audience that you have to make sure you keep that momentum going, to make sure that you're boosting the engagement of your content by replying to comments, mentions, and DMs. And you can do that within SocialBee with the Engage dashboard. So before I even get started with the next slide, I wanted to see if I'm missing anything. So do you have anything in your strategy that is not included in my points here? Do you think anything's missing here? Let me know in the chat if you do. In the meantime, this is what a classic workflow looks like in SocialBee, and we'll go through these steps essentially in just a little bit. But first, you would have to connect your profiles, and there's something new in SocialBee that you may or may have not seen since the end of last week-ish, where we have a new profile that you can connect. Threads is finally here at SocialBee, so if you haven't connected it yet, if you haven't tested it out yet, you can do so starting now, starting last week, actually. So the first step would be to connect profiles. And as I said, in SocialBee, you can connect multiple profiles, meaning Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, Google My Business, YouTube, Pinterest, all of that good stuff. And we also have a solution for those platforms that don't have a direct integration, because you can set up universal posting for those and publish content via reminders. Once you have your profiles connected, which, by the way, in SocialBee, you can connect your profiles in one of 3 places. So you can do so from your dashboard, you can do so from the social accounts tab, which is in your settings, and you can also do so from the onboarding wizard or the copilot in case you're using the AI features. And you'll notice that the copilot actually uses a lot of this workflow that I'm showing here to help you through guiding you through the strategy that you need to build. So the second step here would be to create your content pillars, right? If you have them already, you can just create your categories from scratch. If you don't have them and you need suggestions, there's two ways to get suggestions in SocialBee. One of them is when you first create your account or a new workspace, you'll get some preset categories available. These are just the main core of any content pillar strategy, where you have something educational, something promotional, something entertaining, things like that. And then you also have the copilot there to assist you with creating content pillars that are very specific to your own business and to your own goals. So you can use those to kind of create the perfect content pillars for your strategy. Once you have that, you'll move on to scheduling those categories, because it's easier to schedule categories instead of scheduling individual posts. So with this one, you'll just say, I want a weekly blog post every Wednesday, instead of having to go through those blog posts and actually go publish them one by one or schedule them one by one. You can also do the scheduling part with SocialBee's Copilot in case you need to. That way we look at your analytics and your individual data and figure out what's the best time to post on your social media so that you can publish when your audience is there to see it. If you already know what those times are, or you want to do it manually, there's also a lot of information on it in the analytics that will give you more insight on when's the right time to publish. Once you have that established too, you move on into step number 4, which is adding content into your categories. You can do this in various ways. There are several tools that will help you import content into SocialBee. There is a way for you to edit or create content via AI using the Copilot, using the AI assistant in the post editor. And speak of the post editor, you can also create content from scratch and have a lot of features at your disposal to do so. Now, we all know that content strategies don't end at posting the content, because you also need to reply to comments, interact with your audience, and all of that. So you'll be able to do that as well in SocialBee through the Engage dashboard. And finally, after all this is done, I'd say give it about 7 days, and then you can track your analytics and make sure that your content is performing towards your goals and your objectives. So you can make sure that you are growing in the direction that you want. So this is the classic flow in SocialBee. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and we're actually going to go through the SocialBee platform, and I'm going to show you exactly what that is. Just a reminder, because I do see some things in the chat. Please make sure to add your questions in the Q&A box. I'm not going to reply to questions in the chat because I'm going to close it very soon to focus on the demo. So just to make sure you see this, please make sure your questions are in the Q&A box. Perfect. Okay, so can you see my screen? Yes. Perfect. Okay, so what you're seeing is SocialBee's dashboard. Just as I said, as a first step, this is one of the places in which you can connect your social profiles. When it comes to SocialBee, we have all of the major platforms here connected, and we have a strategy in place for each one of them. So you'll be able to connect Facebook pages. You'll see our Facebook page here, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, X, Threads, I'm losing count of them, TikTok, there we go, Pinterest, YouTube, and also universal posting, which is one that will be available for any platforms that you might not be able to publish to otherwise, maybe Reddit or Quora or things like that. You'll also see that each one of these platforms has a separate toggle running, which allows you to control whether content is being pushed out or not to that specific profile. So you'll see some of our profiles are set to paused as we are not focusing on a content strategy for those profiles at the moment. Wherever we do have content, we have set it to running. And just to make sure we're publishing in the correct time zone, if you go into the social accounts tab, which is at the top right corner, you'll also have more settings available for each profile, including a way for you to set your time zone to make sure that you're not doing math every single time you're publishing content. So you'll have all of this at your disposal here. If you're not yet a SocialBee user, you can see the plans in the pricing tab here. And this is also where you can add things on in case you're already a user and you need a helping hand. So if you need an extra user, you can add it on from here. If you need an extra workspace or profiles, you can also add them on from here. And if you don't have a plan, use the code webinar20 and get one from here. Okay, so what's a workspace, since I mentioned it? So the workspace is a way for you to organize your content within different sub-accounts in SocialBee's. So right now we're in SocialBee's workspace. If I wanted to switch to my own workspace, I can do that and publish on my own profiles. But for now, let's stick to SocialBee. I think it's time to move into the content and the pillars that we have now that we have clarified all of the profiles that we use. You'll see the content pillars or the content categories in the content menu, and you'll also be able to use the copilot, which is this little robot icon here, in order to generate content categories, to generate content, to work through all of that. So let's give it a sneak peek here. You'll see that we already filled in replying to the initial questions that will give it more information on how you can use it. And then we've selected already the profiles that we work with just to make it easier for us. And it is suggesting a few categories. Now, these are not the categories that we're currently using, but they are good categories to get started with. So maybe in the future, Andrea, we might consider some behind the scenes content or some expert interviews. We do have some social media tips here and there, but they're in a different format, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Essentially, you'll have the content pillars here, and then you can move into suggesting a content schedule. This will ensure that your content gets seen so that it gets the visibility that it deserves. And if we move further into this, I won't because it does take a little bit of time. You'll also be able to generate content suggestions, content ideas that you can then put into your categories and maybe finish them up, touch them up a little here and there, and send them on their way. By the way, if you're using the copilot, you can also ask, give us any feedback you might have. This will help us make it even better. But since we're here, I'm not going to feedback on it. So in the content menu, you'll have the two systems that you see SocialBee using. Content without a category being the queue-based system where you schedule each individual post at a specific time. We typically use this for any specific occasion where we don't want to, where we need to publish that content on a specific date, like SocialBee's birthday, which was at the beginning of this month. We celebrated 8 years of SocialBee. It was amazing. We needed that post to go out on June 1st, so we scheduled it with the queue-based system. But otherwise, we would be using the category system. And in the category system, you'll see the content pillars that we have. We have 4 main content pillars visible here that we're actively using right now. So you'll see zero-click content, which is meant to engage with our audience directly on the platforms. So we're we're not sending any links, which is why it's called zero click. We're not pushing them away from the platform. We want to keep them there on that post, interacting with us and with each other to kind of create a little more of a community. We do a lot of webinars, so we do have a lot of webinar content that we can share, which is why that is one of our content pillars. It's super easy to use because we already have the video, this one included. It's going to be super easy for us to chop it up into smaller bite-sized pieces for social media and reshare nuggets of information that might be helpful to others. So that way, even if you don't have a full hour to watch an entire webinar, you can still get the gist of it. You can still get the main points from that webinar, or maybe just a few snippets that are of interest to you. We'll then work into product spotlight, because as any business, you need to have something promotional as well. It needs to be balanced, but balance also includes some promotional content. So we talk about the new updates in SocialBee, how you can best use it, and what new features we have in the product spotlight category. And then we share some educational content through our blogs. So you'll get a weekly blog post from here as well. So these are the categories that we use. I'm curious, what categories are you using in SocialBee? Are you using anything different? Are you using different structures? Are you using the categories or not yet? So let me know in the chat whenever you're ready. I'm gonna sip some water now. Okay, so we've created the categories. We'll soon go into how you can schedule the categories, but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about hashtags. Very important. I just saw Andrea's comment in the chat, which is why I laughed. So yes, take a sip of water every time I do. It's very hot here in Romania right now, so water is essential, especially when you talk a lot. Anyway, let's talk about hashtags. You can save your hashtags in collections in SocialBee, which makes it a lot easier for you to use them whenever you need to. I suggest having them organized by topic. This is what we do at SocialBee, just to make sure that we have everything ready for whenever we need them. We have a few batches that are 10-ish on average hashtags that we're going to select from whenever we're creating content. So we're never going to use all of them. We're going to use the relevant ones for that specific post, but they are connected to different topics that we work with. You'll also see a few posts getting imported in our categories through the RSS feed. That's because we use the RSS feature in order to import content that my colleagues are publishing on the blog. Shout out to Alexandra here, who's been publishing amazing blog content on SocialBee for a while now. We're using this to kind of bring in any content that they publish over there into SocialBee so that we don't have to go out looking for it. My colleagues don't have to inform me whenever, hey, we've published a new blog post. There's no need of that. You can just create an RSS feed connection, and that way you'll have the content imported. So these go directly into my weekly blog post category, which is exactly where I'm going now to show you what it looks like. So in the category, you'll see the content as a draft, which is why you can set it up as a draft or as approved in the RSS feeds. My recommendation would be to use it as a draft. I typically like to go in and add that sparkle, that human touch to the posts so that we make sure that it reflects our tone of voice, our friendliness, our values, all of that. So we set it all to draft. We look at each and every one of them and make sure that we find the right ones for the week that we're in. And then we're going to share them once they're worked into the strategy. So you can see that this one has already been updated a little more than the other ones, because by default, they are going to come get imported as a title, as a caption, and then a link preview there. So when we're not importing content like we are with the blog posts, we use an array of tools to make sure that the content that we need will be in SocialBee whenever we need it. So we have a few tools that you can use here to import your content as well. In case you are reading content outside, which is typically what I do whenever I want to get fresh information, get fresh, maybe social media news, I will look into reading some articles and then have the browser extension handy. I have it installed here on my Chrome. And that way, if I'm reading something, maybe about SocialBee launching threads, I'm able to bring in that article into SocialBee and publish it from there, include it into my strategy without having to do too much work. Now, because we're a team, we also have a content approval flow. So you're going to see here if there's any content that is set to draft mode, that way you can review and approve it. So what we do typically is, and we're going to try to make it fun, this one. When you see a post that, let's say I want to use this post next time we create new content, I can just leave a note saying, tagging Andrea, my colleague, and I'm gonna tell her to include this post in the next content batch. Oops, content batch. That way, she knows what to focus on when preparing the next batch with me, and we can review any posts that we want to add together. On the other hand, if let's say Andrea created the content and we're ready to share it, we can just look at the content and maybe approve it if it's ready to go out, like so. Now, what do we do when we want to create content from scratch? We are going to use the post editor to go into a few of the features that we use here at SocialBee when creating content. So first of all, we're going to select the platforms that we're going for. I'm just going to select the main 4 here. Sorry, I think it's time for another sip. Okay, so I've selected the platforms. The preview already popped up on the right here. So what we can do is we can start typing the post that we want to create. So if I wanted to create something right now, I could, but I actually don't know what I want to post about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the AI assistant here in order to brainstorm ideas for content that I might be able to use. So I'm going to click on the AI assistant and go to generate captions. With the AI assistant, by the way, you can also generate images or use it to customize your caption for each profile automatically once you do have a caption, by the way. So when we generate captions, we have several prompts available here that will help us create content for our industry specifically, or the type of content that we're looking to work with, or the platform that we're looking to work with. So let's just go into marketing agencies here and see what we can come up with. So I think I like this one. By the way, when you like a prompt, you can just heart it, and that way you will find it in your favorite prompts, which are here at the top. So now I have a prompt for my favorite healthy breakfast and one for showing appreciation in there. So I could go with this prompt. I could just very well use this further to kind of work with this post. But typically when I brainstorm for content ideas, I'm not using that. So what I'm using is the random prompt selector from here, which essentially can come up with different prompts so that you can brainstorm to find something that works for you. So, ooh, this one's about a webinar. Let's use this, about SocialBee's best features. Okay, let's do that. So this is a LinkedIn post promoting a webinar or a actually, let's keep it at a webinar about SocialBee's best features. And I'm going to use a friendly tone of voice just because SocialBee uses a tone of voice that's very friendly online. And I'm going to go for approximately 100 words. I'm not going to go on the mark, but rather somewhere around there, give or take. You can go as low as 10 words or as high as 2,000 words with the AI tool here. And if you wanted to generate hashtags or include emoji, you can definitely do that. So let's hit generate and see what it comes up with. Okay, so now we have 3 options here. What I do is I go through each of them and figure out which ones I like best. So I think I like the ones that have bee emojis in them. So I'm going to select these 2. We're going to work through them a little bit more, so don't worry about it. Since this is a LinkedIn post, the way the prompt was created, we can work on LinkedIn first, but you can also work on other platforms as well. If you have other platforms and something's not quite right with your content, you'll be able to see it here. So for us right now, we have too many characters for X, and we don't have a visual on our posts. So that could cause a problem when posting to platforms like Instagram. So what I can do is I can type in socialbee.com. This is not the actual link that I want you to go to, but for the purpose of this demo, I think it works. Socialbee.com would work. Okay, so we have a link. Now we should be good to go on the visual, but we're not because we have selected Instagram, which means that Instagram requires a video, requires an image, something like that. So what we can do is work with, first of all, individual variations, because I've selected 2 posts from the AI options to create customized for options for each one of my profiles. I can do this with the AI tool, and that way hopefully also fix the Twitter issue. So let's go ahead and customize it for variation 1 and see what it comes up with. There we go. So now it's customized for each one. It does have a few differences, although right now I'm not going to read the entire text to figure them out. But essentially, let's just say we have all that it takes to, I think I still need to remove some. Okay, there we go. It's refreshed. It's there. I'm not going to spend too much time on it now. And then we can fix any issue that we have in the post editor directly here. So for Instagram, we don't want that link that we have. I'm just going to remove some of these hashtags which are not relevant to me and maybe add some that are from here. And I can also add a location to my Instagram or bring in visuals, which is very important for Instagram. So now I have to decide whether I want this post to be an image post, a carousel, a reel, a story. What do I want from this post? So if I want it to be a reel, I can just upload the video. I don't have one that's ready for that specific topic, so I'm just going to use a sample video instead. Sorry. So once I've uploaded a video, you'll see that the Instagram post has switched from a feed post to a feed and reel to make sure it accommodates the video. Now I can go in and I can edit the cover photo, and I can add one from my computer or work with the frames of the video in order to make sure it's the best one. So you can use all of these tools whenever you need to. One feature that we do use quite often is the one of adding a first comment to your post. And this is available on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube, which basically allows you to ask some questions to help your audience engage with your content or give additional context or things like that. So you can use this a lot in your strategy as well. Now, because I have 2 options here, I have 2 variations. This means that if I'm publishing this post, the first time it goes out, variation 1 goes out. And the second time it goes out, variation 2 goes out. So I can share the same content, the same idea, especially when it comes to promoting a webinar. You might want to share it multiple times without it being identical. So I can use these variations to maybe create a countdown to my webinar. First variation being the launch of the webinar. Hey, we're hosting a demo webinar in a few weeks. So here's the link. And then create separate variations of this webinar or this promo. You can also do that manually as well to make sure that you remind people maybe a few days ahead of time, maybe a few hours ahead of time, maybe create a post saying, hey, we're live now, join us here, things like that, to kind of create a flow when it comes to promoting your event. So when you're ready with your post, you're going to need to schedule it. And there are 3 options that you can choose from. You can post it immediately by toggling this on. We did this whenever we needed to post something super quickly. For instance, when we needed to test the threads integration and publish our very first thread. You can also add a specific posting time, which suggests the best time to post for that day. So you can have different suggested times for different days, allowing you to make sure that you're publishing when your audience is online. And by the way, this will come with a random minute just to make sure that your content stays spontaneous for your audience, that it's not predictable, that it's not repetitive, that it's not robotic. So you'll have a random posting minute suggested for each one of your posts. You can obviously also just schedule it through the categories. So that way you'll be able to just use it from there. So this is about a webinar. I'm just going to include it in the webinar content here. And since it's not quite ready, I'm going to set it as a draft. That way we make sure it doesn't get published before the right time. So if I wanted to publish multiple variations that I have here, I can requeue my content by toggling this on. So essentially allowing myself to publish the same post multiple times. This will mean that each time the post gets published, a different variation goes out if you have multiple variations. And because I have 2 variations here, I want to expire it after it's been published twice. That means each variation will only go out once. Now, since I've only fixed the issues in the first variation, the second one still has those. So I'm going to quickly remove these platforms from there so that it doesn't have any errors when saving this post. And that's it. We're using this. There we go. Now we have it. So let's talk next about scheduling the categories. Now that you have content in your categories, it's important to create a pattern for whenever you want to publish that content. So a balanced content mix is going to be something like an 80-20 rule, where 80% of your content provides value, 20% of your content promotes your business. And you can do this with the weekly schedule setup because you can create a pattern that works for those categories and allows you to work with those percentages. So let's use an example here. I'm going to filter for Instagram. And we're going to work on our content mix here. So right now we have one of each category for this for every week. Maybe I want to add something on Saturdays. So if I add a new post, a new posting time, I'm going to select the profile first. I'm going to add the category that I want. Let's say this time we're going for product spotlight, and we can select the day and the time when we want this to go out. So now I have it there. So I can look at the schedule statistics here and make sure that I have that 80-20 that I'm talking about. So in this case, 80% of the content providing value for me comes from 3 categories: which is the 0-click, which provides engagement. It provides some insight. It asks questions, things like that. Webinar content, which is educational, and blog post content, which is also educational. So I'm looking at these three categories, and I see that I have 60% of my content coming from these categories. I also see that I have 40%, which is the remaining content, coming from my product spotlight, because I wasn't paying attention and I actually have the category scheduled twice. So that means that I might be publishing too much content when it comes to promoting SocialBee in the current formula. So what I can do is I can edit this to make sure that I include something else, maybe a new category like social media tips, maybe something fun since it's the weekend. So I'll go with 0-click here, and we can twist it like that. And now if we look at it, we have 80% of the content being of value and 20% of the content being promotional. So now our content mix is a lot more balanced. But just for the sake of this, let's say we want one of each every week, so we can even delete the posting time if we don't want to work with it anymore. You can see this schedule set up, by the way, in a calendar view, which is a little more widespread, I'd say, or a compact view, which is the one that I prefer a lot more, just to kind of give you a better understanding of what you have scheduled and when. And if you want to see specific posts, you can see that in the next posts menu. Let's see what we have scheduled so far on, oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's see what we have scheduled so far on SocialBee's Instagram. You'll be able to see it in a list view. So you'll see that we have some content here for the next few weeks. You'll be able to also see it in a calendar view. This is the view that I use the most whenever I create content, because it's easy for me to see exactly where I need to focus my attention next. So because we create content in batches, maybe one day I'll just be creating promotional content, which would help me batch create content of the same type. So that would be the yellow category here. Right now I have 2 posts in here, which means I need to actually create some promotional content, maybe 3 or 4 posts to reach through the entire month of July. Since I'm planning on going on a little vacation, I think that would be good for me to have July filled in. So that means I would need to create quite a few pieces of content here, and it's easy for me to view whenever I don't have content, because you'll see the placeholder of the category instead. If, on the other hand, I want to focus on the aesthetic of SocialBee's Instagram feed, I'm switching over to the grid preview, where there's a lot of my face currently, because I haven't added the thumbnails for the reels yet. So you'll be able to see wherever you have reel that there's something missing still. I still need to do some work on these posts in order to make sure that I'm removing these awkward screenshots of my face and include something that's a little better. Okay, so we've gone through the content. Now we're going to go through the analytics, and we're going to look at how we look at the analytics in order to maximize the content. Now, I must be honest here and say that our scheduling has been pretty hectic in the last month. There's been a lot going on. So there have been times when I have skipped posting, and things happen. This happens, so it's not a big deal. We can recover from that, but the analytics that we get from this will give us great insights on what happened and why. So I'm filtering for Instagram, always Instagram. That's the main focus that I have right now. And I'm looking at page analytics. And the first thing that I want to make sure is that my audience is the one that is following me. So my target audience is the same or similar to the audience that is actually following me. So I'm looking at the demographic distribution. I'm figuring out whether my audience is in the right area where I want them to be. We're worldwide, so basically everywhere you see is great for us. And I'm also looking at when our audience is online to find the peak times when it's best for us to publish. So since the majority of our audience is in the States and we're in Europe, we're looking at the afternoon to evening times for better performance, because that's when both Europeans and US people are active, and somewhere around afternoon is where Asia and Australia are still active a little bit. So that's our ideal window. So we want to focus on that. I also look at the number of posts that I've published in the past month. So let's filter for last month, actually. There we go. So I've published around 13 posts, which is not a lot. I typically go for a little more than that. But, you know, as I said, things happen. Sometimes you can't be consistent. And if you're not publishing or you're not planning as needed, which happens to the best of us, right? Things happen. So because we haven't published as much, you'll see that there has been some fluctuation in the follower count. That's okay. People come, people go. There's life cycles. But overall, you'll still see that any analytics that we have are still good. So essentially, we'll have good impressions. They're still on an upward trajectory. There's still a lot of profile views. There's still reach. There's all of that. And that helps in the direction of content, because it's telling me that even though I'm publishing less than normal, I am still doing the right content for my audience. Speaking of content, I'm looking at post analytics to figure out where the gaps are, which are right here. So you'll see the days that I skipped publishing there. I'll also see the average reach per post. I'll see the best type of content that I've shared. And it seems like people are enjoying carousels lately on our Instagram, so we're focusing more on those. We're also looking at a breakdown of the categories and post type metrics to kind of find the best way to move forward from there. And then I also check the insights to see, just to make sure that I'm publishing at the right times by watching the distribution of my content and to see the best content for that month. Obviously, since we've just celebrated 8 years of SocialBee, there has been a lot of content around that. So it's no surprise that the biggest chunk of content, the top performing content, is about our birthday. If I also want to see the lowest performing, I can go into the post history and filter for exactly what I want and look at the content from there. And you know what? Since we're a team here, we're also able to export this. So let's say we want to send the report to the team so that everyone can see it. Oops, didn't mean to do that. There we go. Let me drag and drop the SocialBee logo in here, and I will later add a summary here to kind of explain what happened, and then select the type of information that I want to include in my report from the information that I have available. So right now I can download this as a PDF and send it to our CEO so that they can actually learn more about how our performance was for Instagram for the past month. And finally, we can look at the engage menu, which is where we typically go to monitor and reply to any of your comments, mentions, or DMs. So I have let me rephrase that thought. I have the common interaction types in boards, so you can create your boards from here. I have mine by comments, mentions, and DMs. You can organize them by platform. You can organize them by individual brands, things, whatever you want. So I have them like this, which means I can go into mentions, for instance, and see whoever mentioned us. So you can see if people are loving SocialBee, if they have any questions, if anything, and that way I can interact with it directly from here and even just reply to the comment directly from here. So I'm not going to do that right now. I obviously need to type in a better reply than but that's something that I can do from here, which pretty much saves me time because I don't have to go through each platform individually and figuring out what each of them where we're mentioned on each of them. I think that's the right formulation. There we go. If there's any issues, for instance, I still need to reconnect LinkedIn's company page, which is why this is not working. So it's letting me know that it's not working. This is not updated. And I'm able to go in and refresh the feed if I wanted to, or refresh the connection directly from SocialBee. So I think that's it. We're going to go into the Q&A session soon. I do see some questions in there, just to make sure that everyone knows and that you didn't miss it. If you are not yet using SocialBee and you want to do so, you can use the code webinar20 to check out with a 20% discount. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now, and let's go into the comments. Okay, so I have quite a few comments here. First comment is, can you show us the best way to automate the recycling of other people's posts on your website? I think you mean requeue. I'm not exactly sure, but I think you mean requeue. Let me know in the chat if you mean anything else. I'm quickly going to reshare my screen so that I can show you what you can do with that. Essentially, what you want to do is you can go into the content menu and set up RSS feeds for each one of your websites. So each one of the websites you want to import content from, you want to set them to approved if you're feeling brave and you want to share them the way they are. But I would personally recommend sending them as drafts so that you can filter through them and only allow the ones that really align with your values, and maybe add a little of your own touch to it as well. So once you set things up here, you'll be able to add the URL of your blog. I'm just typing in socialbee.com and I'm selecting threads just so that it doesn't give me an error that I already have it added. And I'll click fetch. What this does is that it looks for any RSS feeds on that website. And so I'll be able to see what it looks like and figure it out from there. So let's also filter for Facebook maybe. And that way we can also see the few options that we have available there. Now I can choose a category that I want to include my content into, because I don't want duplicates in the weekly blog post, which is the one that we're going to add. I'm just going to add this into the testimonials category for now and move them from there later. And so I'm going to add them as a draft and import them that way. And now if I go into the client testimonials category, I'll see the latest 10 blog posts going into that category from my website, from the website that I've added here. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Now, make sure that if you want to requeue your content, you want to make sure that the category is edited to requeue your content, just like so. So if this is not enabled, the posts will not be recycled. They will publish only once, and that's it. If you want to recycle them, you got to turn this on and enable it for each category. When you see content that is set to recycle, you'll be able to see the requeue label here on every post. And if you click on the post and you want to edit it, you'll be able to toggle it off for that post in particular if you need to. Okay, perfect. That answers the question. I'm happy to hear that. Let's move on then to the next question, because we have quite a few to go through. Okay, when posting via the SocialBee mobile app, can we automatically call out or reference other LinkedIn users using the @ sign before their name. It didn't work for me yesterday. If it didn't work, there's probably a bug somewhere or something that wasn't formulated right, because it should work. So when creating a post for LinkedIn, let's filter for LinkedIn here. There we go. We can tag other company pages, but not other profiles. That's the trick. So profiles have a different security level, being people, being actual people and not businesses. You need to be more wary of that. But if you are trying to tag a company page, you can do so on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on any of the platforms. So you would need to add the @ and username of that platform. But because usernames tend to be different from platform to platform, you will need to customize your content for each profile in order to be able to tag. So maybe that's the issue that was happening yesterday. That's one of the possibilities, at least. So I'll click customize for each profile. And now when I go to LinkedIn and I type in SocialBee, let's say SocialBee HQ. Oh, what did I do? SocialBee.com. Oh, okay. So there might actually be a bug there. I'll flag it to the support team just to make sure that we check it out. But by the way, you can also just @ and paste the link of the company page, and that should work. But yeah, in the meantime, if you think something should work and it doesn't, or it doesn't work the way you expected, you can always reach out to our support team at success@socialbee.com, and they'll be looking into it as well. So yeah, that's a good find. I'll flag it to the team so that we can fix it. Okay, so next question. Can I pair this offering with the LinkedIn prospect offering? I'm assuming you're talking about the Webinar 20 code. The Webinar 20 code offers a 20% deal on the first year of your platform plans. It does not accumulate with any other offers that we're using right now. So you will not be able to add them on top of each other. But yes, you can use SocialBee as a tool and the services that we have through ConciergeBee together. So I hope that answers your question. And just because we're on the same topic, I do see a question in the chat. If we're not a current SocialBee user, how long is the 20% code good for? So the code is available for the next 7 to 10 days. I'm not exactly sure. Andrea, can you confirm? But you'll be able to have 20% discount for an entire year. So that's 12 months on the monthly plan. Okay, so next question. If it's within the scope of this webinar, could you please demonstrate how the analytics could be used to identify Facebook posts that might be worth boosting? Sure. So when you go into your analytics, you should probably go into the post history of your Facebook page. So I'm not really familiar with the content on our Facebook. I don't really go there a lot. But yeah, essentially you would go here and you would look maybe for most engagement or most impressions, depending on what your ultimate goal is. If you want to generate more engagement, I would look for most engagement. If you want to generate more brand awareness, I would look for most impressions. Those are the ones that are reaching more people. So in this case, the ones that are getting most impressions would be worth boosting for more visibility because they're already very visible and you want to make that even further. You want to amplify it further. If you want engagement, look for the ones with the most engagement. I hope that makes sense. Does SocialBee sync social contact data with top CRMs? Not that I'm aware of. You might find a few ways to do so, but I don't really think that's something that we do. No. No, I don't think we do that. So I thought you might be able to use Zapier to create some sort of a connection, but I don't think there's a way you can do that within SocialBee. So that's a good feature, though. I will pitch it to the product team. How can we replicate a post so it efficiently gets posted in LinkedIn groups that we are members of? Unfortunately, LinkedIn does not allow groups as a part of scheduling within their API. So we're not able to schedule content to LinkedIn groups, but you can use the universal posting in order to send reminders to your phone, and so that you're able to actually get the reminder to publish your content on that group. Alternatively, what you can do is you can actually share the content that's been published to your company page into that group. I think that would be the most effective way, but if you want to schedule it, I'd say the universal posting works best. If a LinkedIn account is synced in SocialBee and we post directly in that account instead of SocialBee, will all the metrics related to that post sync back into SocialBee? The answer is yes. If I go into the analytics, and we specifically sometimes post directly to the platform so that we can have this and show it to you, show you what it looks like, you'll see that post. If you're publishing it natively or outside of SocialBee, you'll see that post marked as an external post instead of the category that you've been publishing it for. So you'll be able to see it that way with all the impressions and all of the data that needs to be there. There's no difference in that. Oh, and by the way, you can also bring that post into SocialBee. So if you click on the reuse button, you'll be able to bring it into SocialBee and maybe use it again if needed, if it's a post that is worth resharing. Can you use multiple images per post? If you're creating a carousel post, depending on the platform that you're using, yes, you are able to add multiple images. So I do have some images here that we can use as an example. So I'm just going to bring in multiple images. You just drag and drop them. And typically the platforms will let you know if something's wrong. So if you need text with those images, if you have too many images, if that platform doesn't publish the images in a certain way. So for instance, we have a mobile icon reminder letting us know that these are not the right aspect ratios. I would need to crop them to make sure that they are Instagram friendly. And then I would be able to post them like that. But yes, on average, typically you should be able to add up to 10 image posts. 10 images per post, actually. So yeah, you should be able to do so. Is there a way to store images or videos in SocialBee that are regularly used? You can definitely do that through categories. So you can create a category that you just keep as a media library, and then you can use the import media to import content into those categories. And that way, you would have the visuals there and you would just duplicate it and bring it into the categories that you need to whenever you want to schedule it, and keep the original in the media library category. So that's a way you can do that. I'm new to this post and getting familiar with SocialBee. Welcome to SocialBee then. My question is that we also use ActiveCampaign where I schedule my campaigns. Having SocialBee to schedule my marketing posts and ActiveCampaigns will just double the work, or do they sync? They do not sync automatically. We do not have an integration so that they sync, but you might be able to use a tool like Zapier in order to create a connection. Tools like Zapier, Make, or Publi will make it easier for you to create an ecosystem with any other tools that you might be using so that you can avoid any double work. So that might be a good option that you need to look into. Just be mindful that Zapier is a little more tech advanced. So you do need a little time to learn it to make sure that it works for you. But other than that, it should probably be able to help with creating a connection between these tools. I noticed you only schedule 4 days a week, Tuesdays on to Fridays, and that the best, and are these the best? Monday not recommended to post. They are for us. By looking at our analytics, that's when the majority of our audience is online on that platform, which is Instagram, which is why we focus on those days. Things might be different for you and your audiences, depending on several things like who's your target audience, what demographic they're a part of. So, you know, if your audience is a stay-at-home mom, she might have a different schedule than a person who's commuting to work every day. A stay-at-home mom might have different days and times of the day when they are at on their phone, when they are scrolling through social media and might be there to view your content. So it really depends on your specific audience. And as I said earlier, you can look at your analytics here on each platform and figure out when your audience is online by looking at the heat map. And then if you go into the post analytics and look at your category metrics, you'll also see some suggestions of the best time to post for that specific category type of content, if you will. Are analytics available for LinkedIn? Yes, they are, depending on whether you're going for a LinkedIn company page or a LinkedIn personal profile. You might have more or less. Personal profiles tend to have a lot less analytics that company pages do, but you do have quite a bit of content analytics in here as well. When I save an Instagram carousel post in SocialBee, the photos get rearranged into the wrong order. How do I fix this, or what could I be doing wrong? Typically, I'm not familiar with any issues with arranging the photos in a different order. So typically, by default, they should stay in the order that you have. If they don't, email our success team, success@socialbee.com, so that they look into it. We make sure it's not a bug, or if it is, we make sure that we fix it so that it doesn't bother you anymore. Are there any plans to get engagement abilities for LinkedIn? You do have engagement for LinkedIn in the Engage dashboard. You can connect your LinkedIn company pages. For LinkedIn personal profiles, it's a little more complicated due to different security and data privacy restrictions. But for company pages, you should be able to see any comments, any mentions that you get on LinkedIn. Will SocialBee allow us to post stories? Yes, we will. So with SocialBee, you can publish stories currently to Instagram and Facebook. When you select either one of these platforms and you customize for each profile, you'll have a drop down on them that will allow you to select story from there. So the same happens on Facebook and on Instagram. You'll be able to choose the story from there, but this is only visible after you click customize for each profile because it's a platform specific feature. Not all the platforms have a story ability at the moment, or at least one that is included in their scheduling API so that we can use it. I only have two more questions actually. So this is the last call on the questions. Can you show us how we get our mentions from the social media app into the Engage dashboard? Yes, I can definitely do that. And I'll use this opportunity to reset the mentions for LinkedIn, which were giving an error earlier. So I think my internet connection is playing a prank on me. There we go. Okay, so first of all, I'll remove this so that I can have something to add. Just like that. It appears that either my computer or my connection are a little slow right now, so bear with me. So the first thing you'll need to do is create a board. I'll just create a new one so that I show you how to do this as well. So let's say LinkedIn mentions here. You can name this whatever it works for you. So I'll just have the board here, and now I can click on Add New Stream here on the right and select my LinkedIn company page. When I do, the options that are available for LinkedIn will be black here, and the ones that are not available at the moment are grayed out. So you'll be able to choose for LinkedIn from mentions and comments. So since we're working with mentions, I'll pick mentions here, and it's automatically bringing everything in. It will sync in a few minutes, and then we'll see if there's anything new popping up here. So it's as simple as that. There's nothing else to do there. And the final question that I have here, what ratio would you recommend between LinkedIn and zero linked content? I think you're mentioning zero-click content, which is the category that we have. I know Facebook don't like it if too many of your posts have links. Yes, that's right. Most of the platforms will have some sort of algorithm in place to make sure that you're keeping the audience on the platform and you're not driving them away from the platform. And actually, that's one of the reasons why Instagram doesn't allow links on their platform. In the posts, I mean. So I would suggest keeping it somewhere in a balance. Typically, what we do with SocialBee is we don't add more than, I would say, 1 or 2 at most links per week to our content, because we want to make sure that we have interaction on the platform as well. So a good way to work around that would be to create your content with a visual and then add the first comment to your post and add the link just like this to the first comment. So you can learn more about it going here. And this will be the actual link, and the post will not be a link post in itself. So that's a good workaround for that. And I think that's it. I have 2 more questions that are actually thank yous. So I'm super happy to be able to help answer all of these questions. I do hope that you had as much fun as I did. I think another question popped up last minute. So let's see. As a social media manager, could you walk through how my client would go about approving content? Absolutely. So your client would definitely need a SocialBee account first. As a social media manager, because you're typically handling multiple clients, I would recommend having a pro account so that you can split your clients into different workspaces. And that way you can add your client as a user to that workspace. Once they are a user in that workspace, you can guide them through the content menu to go into the content approval tab. You can also just grab the link and share it directly with them, and they should be good to go. So this is how they do it. They can approve the content directly from here or leave a note whenever they need to feedback on any content that you have. And that's it. You'll get notified whenever they mention you. You can also add a toggle to get notified if there are any changes regardless of the change. And that way you'll get an email every time the user interacts with that post so that you know exactly what happened. And that's it. Okay, so I think that concludes our webinar. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to use the code webinar20 to start your SocialBee journey if you're not a part of SocialBee yet. And if you are a part of SocialBee or you just have more questions once the webinar is done, you can always reach out to us at hello@socialbee.com or myself personally at anka@socialbee.com. And with that, I'll wish you a happy rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time in the next webinar.